Gaza. And he derided pro-Palestinian protesters as idiots and tools of Iran. The Israeli prime minister told U.S. lawmakers that Israel will settle for nothing less than total victory over Hamas and described a vision for post-war Gaza seemingly at odds with the terms of a peace deal advocated by the Biden administration. The fate of Israel and the United States are inextricably linked, he asserted, arguing that the U.S. investment in Israel's war aims also serves to defend the United States and all democracies. Now, tensions were running so high as Democrats boycotted the speech that Speaker of the House Mike Johnson threatened to have anyone who caused a disturbance on the floor or in the gallery to be arrested. And House Republican leaders told lawmakers to focus on criticizing Vice President Kamala Harris's record without reference to her race and gender. Now, this is following caustic remarks from some Republicans attacking her on the basis of identity, i.e., basis of her race and gender. During a closed-door meeting yesterday, chair of the House GOP campaign, campaign arm, Richard Hudson, and others issued the warning after a series of comments made by their members that focus on Harris's race, as well as claims that she is a DEI, otherwise diversity, equity, and inclusion pick. Well, many of those Republicans are not following the instructions of Mr. Hudson because attacks on Kamala Harris's race and gender are pouring in. And progressives have swung behind Kamala Harris in surprisingly quick fashion in the 48 hours since Joe Biden left the presidential race, largely setting aside their past skepticism of the vice president with an eye to defeating Donald Trump. Senator Bernie Sanders is still notably withholding his endorsement until Harris reveals a working class agenda, he says. But instead of an array of litmus tests and demands for Harris and her 2024 platform, liberals are mostly clearing a path for Harris, much as some tried to do for Biden, desperate to project party unity out of intense fears that Donald Trump could win another term. Well, the Trump camp is planning to Willie Horton Kamala Harris, even though Mr. Hudson just told them not to. Donald Trump's campaign is preparing a full-scale blitz on Harris with broadsides on her record that borrow from the ad that came to define dog whistle politics. In the 24 hours since Joe Biden announced he has ended his re-election campaign, Trump and his fellow Republicans have put on the defensive. Well, they were put on the defensive for the first time in more than a month. Their response was broad, it was flailing and conspiratorial, accusing Democrats of staging a coup of their own party, suggesting that the president, i.e. Joe Biden, faked his COVID diagnosis, and they even floated the notion that Joe Biden might be dead. All right, the Trump campaign yesterday filed a complaint also with the Federal Election Commission, arguing that money raised for President Joe Biden's re-election campaign cannot be transferred to Vice President Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. The complaint was filed by the Trump campaign's general counsel, David Warrington, and argues that transferring the funds would amount to little more than a thinly veiled $91.5 million excessive contribution from one presidential candidate to another. Well, the coordinated Harris campaign reported yesterday that they had raised more than 100. This is not the 91.5 that was in the account for Joe Biden. This is new money, $100 million from 1.1 million donors. They said they raised this amount of money in just 41 hours after President Biden announced he was stepping aside. Future Forward, one of the largest PACs that is supporting Biden, announced $150 million in commitments for Kamala Harris in the first 24 hours after Biden's announcement on Sunday. Well, Vice President Harris did not waste any time hitting the campaign trail. She was out on Tuesday with record grassroots fundraising, the largest Democratic crowd to date, and new polling showing the race is now a toss-up as former President Trump began adopting to her swift ascent to the Democratic nomination. To a roaring crowd of thousands, some estimate it was about 3,000, in a Milwaukee suburb, Vice President Harris moved to define the November election as a choice between the future and the past, a prosecutor and a felon. She said, I know Donald Trump's type. She said, I used to prosecute predators, sexual abusers, cheats, and frauds. The crowd of largely organizers was so large that it had to change venue, and they broke out in a chant, "We are not going back. We are not going back." Well, and Biden, the vice president, has also pushed the rest of the Biden administration to more heavily consider Palestinian suffering in its response to Israel's war in Gaza. She has been lambasting the civilian death toll, calling on Israel to allow more aid to the territory, and speaking more forcefully and empathetically than President Biden about the Palestinian plight. And President Biden is not dead. He is over COVID. According to his doctor, he has tested negative, and he will be making an address to the nation tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from the Oval Office. He's going to talk about his decision to exit the presidential race and endorse Vice President Harris as the Democratic nominee. Now, during the speech, he is also expected to detail his priorities for the remaining months of his presidency. Vice President Harris delivered an address today to a gathering at the Zeta Phi Beta sorority in Indianapolis, telling 6,000 Black women in attendance that their help is needed this election year. Donald Trump was also out on the campaign trail today. He was in Charlotte and will be at a rally tonight. We will be bringing you live right here on KBLA Talk 1580, the speech from Joe Biden from the Oval Office, and immediately following that speech, we'll go live again, and we will have our own political correspondent, Dr. Corte, who is going to be in the Oval Office at the time that speech is made. He's going to come on and give us blow-by-blow updates in terms of who was in the room, what the mood of the room was, and verify for us that the president is indeed alive, that he has an agenda for the next 6 months, and that he is as enthusiastic about Vice President Kamala Harris at the top of the Democratic ticket as is millions of Americans. This is the news of the day, and this is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I'm going solo today with Dr. Omikanga Dabinga. He is a regular contributor on the show. He and I have not had a chance to talk since the news that Joe Biden was stepping aside, and since all of the endorsements and fundraising and just activities around Kamala Harris, including her clinching, that is, the vote by delegates. She's passed that 50% mark by delegates across the country, that is Democratic delegates, and a roll call is scheduled, I've been told, as a delegate for August 1st. We're going to get on a Zoom, barring some unusual circumstances, and we're going to officially vote for Kamala Harris as our nominee, so that when we go into that convention on August 19th, there won't be any circus, there won't be any drama, there won't be any mess. We will go in as a unified party focused on one thing and one thing only, and that is beating Donald Trump. That is regaining the House of Representatives and maintaining our dominance in the U.S. Senate. Well, talk to Dr. Dabinga. He is the author of a book called Lies About Black People, so timely given what we're going through in this country. He's also a professor at American University. Then in hour two, you know what we do? We go a little deeper. We dig behind those headlines, and got a treat for you in this hour, because we're going to bring you that live speech from Joe Biden at exactly 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to hear what President Joe Biden has to say about how and why he made the decision to step down, and why it's so important that the Democratic Party unite, come together, stop our bickering, and support Kamala Harris. I'm also going to have two of our regular contributors come on after the speech so they can help us break down what President Biden said. There's so much speculation about why he made his decision, what he might do in these last 6 months. Some folks think there's some bold pronouncements perhaps coming, particularly as it relates to court reform, that is reforming the U.S. Supreme Court. and as he continues to address the crisis in the Middle East. When you got 6 months left on your watch, you can be bold, you can be innovative, you can think outside the box, you can do just about whatever you want to do as long as it's legal. Well, if you're Donald Trump, you can do it even if it's illegal. But knowing our president, our amazingly wonderful president, I'm excited to hear what he has to say. I'm excited to see him back out doing his job. Excited for him because he is now going to get to have, I hope, 10 or 15, if not more, precious years with his family. We know he loves his family. We know he loves his son. He's passing the mantle, the torch to Kamala Harris. She's going to continue his work. She's going to define her own agenda. And some of us think that she's probably taking names on those folks that backstab the president. She's very, very loyal to him, very faithful to him. He got her where she is today in terms of being the nominee because, let's face it, Joe Biden may be the most consequential president for African Americans in our history, even more so than Abraham Lincoln. He had Barack Obama's back for 8 years. We know how important that was. His presence on that ticket gave confidence to a lot of white voters that otherwise wouldn't have voted for Barack Obama. And he stood in the gap for Barack for 8 years. And then he appointed our first African-American female Supreme Court justice. That's a legacy on that court that will live forever. He selected our first Black vice president, and then he passed the torch to her, endorsed her, and now is working to make her our first Black female president. Ooh, there are not a lot of other presidents that we can look to now. Yeah, Abraham Lincoln is, said to have freed the slaves. We know that was a complicated situation. Don't want to take anything away from good old Abe, but Joe Biden is going down in the history books for having stood up for Black folks during some very perilous and difficult times. I mean, not obviously as difficult as what Abe Lincoln was going through, but we have seen so many attacks on people of color. So to have Joe Biden not blink and be unequivocal in his support for the advancement of African Americans, for equality for all, is really admirable. And I think we're going to see people paying tribute to Joe Biden, not only at the convention in Chicago, but for the next 6 months. He's probably going to go into rooms where folks are going to stand to their feet, give him standing ovations. He is going to get his flowers, because that's what we do as Democrats. We give those, particularly our elders, who have given so much of themselves and made so many sacrifices. We give them their flowers. Before I bring on my guest, I just want to say Donald Trump, we know, is floored. He is flabbergasted. He's frustrated. He's angry because he spent 2 years tailoring a campaign to defeat what he called the old white male president, who he said was conspicuously frail and who most Americans bought the narrative that Joe Biden wasn't up for another 4 years. So Trump thought that was going to be the campaign he would have until November, that he would just stay on that message about Joe Biden being too old, being too frail. Then suddenly Democrats, in the most strategic move ever, causing Donald Trump now to face a starkly different opponent, a vice president who is a Black woman, who is nearly 20 years younger than he is, who brings so many strengths to her candidacy, including her expertise, her experience, her legal training, her background as a prosecutor, her ability to articulate in the most persuasive and passionate way the message of democracy. This race, Republicans had the momentum, and just in a blink of an eye, everything changed. Every story, every report is about the momentum of our Vice President Kamala Harris. I said it yesterday. I'll say it again today. I said it on Monday. It feels like the Obama 2007, 2008 enthusiasm when you look at the thousands of people on a Black call one night, Black women, the next day, Black men. There's been a call of white women. There's been a call of Asian women. People, gay men, I was told Black gay men are on these Zoom calls. People all over the country are coming together. They're breaking the internet. They're breaking Zoom. They're raising record amounts of money. And they are sending a message that it is a new day and it's a new game. And Donald Trump days appear to be numbered. And we are just going to keep working and working and working until November, until we do what Black women and Black people and our allies and progressives do, we are going to save this country and save our democracy. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. Just a few short months ago, California Attorney General Rob Bonta filed 11 felony charges against Diana Turan, an assistant district attorney for Los Angeles County. The charges allege that Turan unlawfully accessed confidential computer data, including police officer files in 2018, and continued to use them after joining the DA's office in 2021. Ironically, Turan, who is now on administrative leave, oversaw the Public Integrity Division responsible for handling high-profile cases of police misconduct and public corruption, including the charges brought against LA City Council member Kern Price last June. To be sure, the case against Price has raised plenty of eyebrows. Indeed, one noted legal scholar has said publicly, and I quote, "Everything about this prosecution reeks," close quote. Could AG Bonta, with aspirations to become California governor, be punishing Turan for her role in DA George Gascon's police accountability agenda to curry favor with police unions? Could DA Gascon be using the case against Price to showcase his tough stance on crime and political corruption as he vies to retain his seat as DA? Honestly, I have no idea, but here's what I know for sure. Kern Price has been elected and re-elected by thousands of voters, mostly black and brown, who stand to be further disenfranchised if this matter is not handled correctly, which is why it matters to us at KBLA Talk 1580. When the prosecutor is being prosecuted, it seems to me that at the very least, there ought to be a thorough, top-to-bottom, independent review of all cases under Diana Turan's purview to ensure that none of these cases have been tainted. Justice and fundamental fairness demand no less if public trust truly matters. And I hope it does. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Tavis Smiley. We welcome your feedback.
Do you know what brand sells the most work shoes in America? Skechers. Why? Skechers has the best looking safety toe and slip resistant shoes around. They've got superior quality and simply incredible prices, but many people get them just for the style. So you can enjoy tough, steel-toed protection and slip-resistant soles anywhere, even if you don't need them for work. And since they're Skechers, you know they're going to be comfortable with Skechers' exclusive air-cooled memory foam. Find your new pair of Skechers safety toe and slip-resistant work shoes at a Skechers store, at Skechers.com, or wherever work shoes are sold.
Presenting Again Fling's love story. Dear love of my life, we were on the 12B bus this morning when I caught a whiff. A scent so fresh, so life-changing, I had to find its source. Alas, I didn't know if you were the woman in the pink freshly washed cardigan or the retired mailman next to me, but I knew one of you was my soulmate. Ah, the scent of Gain Flings. Try Gain Flings with Oxy.
We are back, and Dr. Omikongo Dibinga is joining me in this hour. He is the author of a book called Lies About Black People, best-selling book. Gotten a lot of enthusiastic reviews and responses to that book. He's also a lecturer at American University. So, Dr. Dibinga, I haven't talked with you since Joe Biden decided to step aside and endorse Kamala Harris, but it seems like the world got turned upside down on Sunday afternoon, and it has been a whirlwind ever since. I just want to focus a minute on this infighting that appears to be happening in the Republican Party. We spent 3 weeks talking about how the Democrats were eating each other alive, and it looks like that's happening now on the Republican side. You have this Republican House leader whose job is out there to, I guess, get GOP candidates elected. His name is Richard Hudson. He's a Republican from North Carolina. He's saying, look, cut it out, guys. Stop with all the racist identity attacks, and let's attack Kamala Harris on her record. Let's not use race or gender. You have that, but you also have a report coming out that Trump is planning to go full-blown Willie Horton on Kamala. And we know that Trump has a history of trashing powerful women, particularly Black women. He's called Kamala Harris all kinds of names. He's called her nasty, crazy. He's mocked her laugh. He's made comments about her not being qualified to even be the vice president, suggesting that she wasn't born in the United States. She's not a United States citizen. He even called her dumb as a rock. I mean, so the insults go on and on and on. Mr. Hudson is saying, cut it out, but somebody is saying, bring it on. So who do you expect the Republican, who are they going to follow? And what should we expect to see?
Well, I mean, Trump didn't seem to have a problem with Kamala, and he was contributing money to her campaign in California. But, story for another day, Mr. Hypocrite. Look, how did Jay-Z say it in his first hit song? You can't change a player's game in the ninth inning. This is who they are. They are not going to make a pivot from their racist dog. They're not even dog whistling, from their racist bullhorn ways between now and November. They can't do it. If they didn't, Democrats could easily make a pivot on various issues if they want. We switch from using language like homeless to unhoused, switch from using language like, illegal, quote unquote, aliens to undocumented. Like it's not hard for people who have character and who have other things to stand on to look at the language that they're using to see if it's helping their message. But just as any momentum they had at the RNC was shut down on the last day when Donald Trump went into his speech and just showed that he's not interested in unifying. So how do you expect to teach an old dog new tricks this late in the game? So that's who they're going to listen to, Areva. They're going to follow their leader. They're going to follow the racist ideas. And our philosophy, keep talking. Just keep talking, keep showing who you are. People going back and forth with what's the name, Kilmeade, saying that she's speaking to a colored society. It's like, no, I said college. Like, last time we spoke 2 weeks ago, was Sebastian Gorka called her colored. Like, it's coming out because this is who they are. They're not, even Kevin McCarthy was like, this is bad politics. This is bad campaigning. He said that today to do this, and they don't even respect him. So this is who they are. Keep coming with it.
Oh, we know Kevin McCarthy. He was ousted from the party. He's way too moderate. And Kevin became a Trumper trying to hold on to his seat. He sold his soul to Donald Trump, and then they ousted him anyhow. I have lots of colleagues in California that know Kevin McCarthy, remember him when he served in the State House in California. And they said he was always conservative, but nothing like what we saw him do as he tried to become and was speaker for that brief period of time. So I'm not surprised to hear him say this is bad campaigning, because pre-Trump, he would have never, he would not have been the guy that would have used those kind of blatant racist attacks. You mentioned that colored comment. You're right. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago, and I think we have some video of it being used again today. Let's take a listen to that video, Robert.
Obviously, you compare him to President Biden, who is muddling his way through speeches. People know he couldn't go more than better, right? Yep, couldn't go more than 15 minutes. She's very good on the prompter. No one even doubted that. She had 3,000 people there. Why are they there? A lot of them has to do with, hey, I'm a Democrat. I thought we were going to go down in flames. Now we have a shot. The problem with Kamala Harris, number one, she has not had her record exploited heavily because people thought and marginalized her. Even in the Democratic Party, they said, wow, what a bad choice Joe Biden made. Number two is she hasn't sat down for an interview. When she sits down in an interview and says, do you want to fund ICE? Where do you stand on Medicare for all? Why didn't you show up? The most recent decision, already you got a question. She will not show up for the Prime Minister's joint session of Congress today. She'd rather address in the summer a sorority, a college sorority, like she can't get out of that. So
boom,
bingo. That's her decision to back up.
That's enough, Robert. We've heard enough. A colored sorority. Is that like a black job, Dr.?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, right? Because, and him and the guy Lawrence there, the black guy there, they're online saying, I said college, but nobody says college sorority or college fraternity because it's assumed that it's already in college. So this idea, we played it back and forth. That R is there, that D is there, and there's going to be more, Areva. That's what I'm talking about. And here's the thing. We're all in media. We do this work. All of us have mistakes that we make and so on and so forth. But these guys do not deserve the benefit of the doubt because of who they are. These are Freudian slips for them, and the realness is just going to keep coming out. Every one of us can make a mistake and say something that didn't come out right, but because of who we are, and your reputation matters. So you can clearly say, well, they meant to say X, but they said Y. We get it with them. These guys are nothing but racist and extremist, misogynistic, and we're going to see more of all the DEI hire stuff, which is basically like an upscale version of welfare queen that they're throwing out now. You see J.D. Vance talking about, she's collecting a government check, which is also reminiscent of the welfare queen tropes, and he's 39. They're like, he's a young guy. He got the old tropes too, right? And last time I checked, he was collecting a government check. I got a whole chapter on welfare queen in my book. This is who they are, Areva. And someone said about Black men who might be considering supporting Trump, even they won't stand for continued attacks like this on Kamala Harris. So just because they're like, yo, back off. Keep coming, guys. We're here for it.
You forgot the childless cat lady.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God.
I don't know. That's clearly both sexist, racist, and stupid. Not to mention that. The reality is that they are so off their game. They don't know what to do. They are flailing.
That's right.
They are imploding, and they're struggling to find a message because they spent 2 years, 3 years, the old white guy, and now they have the young, vibrant Black woman. When we come forward, more today's breaking and trending news right here on Areva Martin in real time. Stay with us.
Right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Black Democrats will get together in Virginia this weekend to brainstorm ways to help Vice President Kamala Harris get elected. A grassroots summit will be held at Hampton High School this Saturday. Among those attending are Congressman Bobby Scott, State Senator Luis Lucas, and State Mamie Locke, who are all Black, and other state and local elected leaders. The group is especially hoping to get young people involved in the Harris campaign and will hold a panel on messaging featuring social media influencers, DJs, promoters, and other prominent young voices. The Utah Democratic Party has unanimously endorsed Kamala Harris to become the party's presidential nominee. UDP Chair Dianne Lewis says Harris's experience as a criminal prosecutor makes her the perfect candidate to defeat Donald Trump, who's a convicted felon. Lewis also says Harris has support from young people, Latino and Black voters, and women, which could lead her to victory in the 2024 presidential election. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Pretty busy ride on the 14 in Santa Clarita. We'll start with the southbound side of the 14. This is right at Shadow Pines Boulevard. An accident blocks the two right-hand lanes, and the South 14 is slow from Agua Dulce Canyon Road down to Sand Canyon Road. The 14 heading northbound, this is right at Shadow Pines Boulevard. You have a car that broke down in the left-hand lane. And up ahead, the Agua Dulce Canyon Road off-ramp from the 14 northbound blocked because of an accident.
Me and the kids were always messaging. They LOL'd, I ROFL'd, but then I changed phone and the bubbles went green. But where there's a fill, there's a way. And I found a way to share what's in here. I'm tapping my heart.
WhatsApp, the place to safely send messages between different devices. Message privately with everyone.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The U.S. Olympic team will have 2 African-American athletes serving as flag bearers for the Summer Olympic opening ceremonies Friday in Paris. Tennis star Coco Gauff will carry the flag for the U.S. women's athletes. She will walk side by side with LeBron. At age 20, Gauff will be the youngest flag bearer in Olympic history for the U.S. Gauff is also the first tennis player to have the honor. She's ranked number 2 in the world by the World Tennis Association. The opening ceremonies will be televised live Friday morning on NBC beginning at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. If you miss it, NBC will rebroadcast the ceremonies Friday night at 7:30. WNBA merchandise sales are up 500%, mainly because of the popularity of rookie stars Caitlin Clark of the Indiana Fever and Angel Reese of the Chicago Sky. Clark and Reese are ranked number 1 and 2 in WNBA jersey sales. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader. If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black.
Follow the leader in the leader.
Oh my God.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580.
Tips to help improve basic steps for building a budget in 2024. Building a budget can help you achieve and reach your financial goals. With a budget, you can keep track of your spending, avoid and get out of debt, limit overspending, pay bills on time, and build solid savings habits. What's the best way to get started? Figure out how much to set aside for expenses like rent, mortgage, bills, groceries, and entertainment. Understanding your past financial habits can help you make the proper adjustments for your budget. Adjusting to a budget can take time as you work to find the right balance, but keep working on it. For more financial health tips, visit chase.com or stop by a local branch. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We are back, and Dr. Omikango Dibinga is with us in this hour. He is the author of Lies About Black People. And at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, that's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are going to bring you the live Oval Office speech from Joe Biden. It's the first time that he will be facing the nation and talking to the American people since he decided on Sunday not to run for president and endorse Kamala Harris. Lots of speculation about what he's going to say in this speech. Some people think it's going to be a pretty quick speech, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Others say, no, it's going to be much longer. Well, whether it's 10 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour, you will be able to stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580. We will bring you that speech live from the Oval Office. And then we have our political correspondent, Dr. Nicordelay Corte, who will be in the Oval Office as the speech is delivered by President Biden. He's going to come on as immediately following the speech and give us an up to date, blow by blow. Who was in the room? What was the mood like? How did the president look? Some extreme Republicans are speculating that the man is dead. He's not dead, obviously. He's going to be giving a speech. He had COVID, like so many other Americans who had COVID, took the medication, isolated, and recovered. Not all that uncommon today. So make sure you stick with us. We're going to bring you that speech and then give you, of course, some opinions and some analysis about that speech. So Dr. Dibinga, I want to talk about Netanyahu. He came to the U.S. Congress today. A lot of Democrats were protesting his planned remarks on the floor. They didn't show up. Apparently, the tensions were running so high that the speaker, Mike Johnson, had to threaten people to say, if you basically, make a disturbance while he's giving his speech, I will have you arrested. He made some pretty bold statements. He was dismissive of the human rights and the International Criminal Court's determination that he was committing war crimes. He called pro-Palestinian protesters idiots and tools of Iran. Now, he's making this speech at the same time that there's reports out that Kamala Harris, although she has been a part of the Biden-Harris administration's policy on Israel, she's been far more critical of Netanyahu. She's been far more vocal about the need for more humanitarian aid. She's lambasted Israel over the civilian death toll, and she has called for not only a ceasefire, but a two-state solution. And Netanyahu seems to be all puffed up saying, ain't gonna be no two-state solution, ain't gonna be no ceasefire. We aren't stopping this war until there is a total victory over Hamas. We don't care how many people have to get killed. And all of you out there protesting, you're idiots. So this is going to get interesting when Kamala Harris is the president.
Oh, most definitely. I can't wait. I'm so glad that they're having, separate meetings, so she can kind of lay out some things. And look, we know that the United States government can continue to be supportive of Israel and close to Israel. That's never going to change in our lifetimes, I'm sure. But that doesn't mean that you get a blanket pass. It doesn't mean you get a free pass to all of the weapons. All of the deaths that are happening in Gaza, for the most part, I'm sure, are coming from weapons made in the United States, or a very large amount of them. So that type of stuff needs to be tapered. It needs to be switched up. And so I'm hoping as many people who are pro-Palestinian or, support Gaza and what's happening in Gaza right now in the United States, they are a little bit more optimistic about Kamala Harris, which can bode well going into November. Back to Netanyahu, the fact of the matter is, it's disgraceful that this Congress would give him an opportunity to basically come here and make a State of the Union type speech, a speech that he couldn't make in the Knesset, could not do this in Israel, and to come here and basically make a speech for the people of Israel from here to kind of show that he still has support, that he's still the big bad, leader who can handle things. That was disgraceful. This man, when people are calling him a war criminal in certain countries he can't go to because he will be arrested, and he's allowed to come here, that is ridiculous. Going to the actual speech itself, calling protesters idiots. There were, Jewish, 400 Jewish people got arrested yesterday, including 6 rabbis. Are they idiots? There are scholars who put out a thing in the New York Times talking about why Netanyahu shouldn't be here. Jewish scholars, are they idiots as well? One who works for a university in Israel, are they idiots? And when he made his speech, you also notice one of the things that he did not do was take any responsibility, hold himself accountable for anything that has happened in this near 10-month war. So it was very problematic for me that he was here. I have a lot of respect for the protesters out there. Many of them, some of them poured red dye in the water around the Capitol in different places to represent blood on their hands. Somebody put a projector of Netanyahu, war criminal, flashing across from his hotel. This is not something that you do. And we have to distinguish between supporting Netanyahu and supporting the people of Israel, because all of the Jewish activists I know, all of the Jewish scholars that I know, all of the Jewish people that I know have all said it's in their best interest for their own security in Israel for there to be a two-state solution. Right now, people are getting more hardened in Gaza and the West Bank and so on and so forth. And there could be an Hamas 2.0 or 3, whatever. His policy is not working. And he's doing this to actually stay out of prison or to at least stay in office.
Yeah, I was shocked by how, the tough rhetoric that he used.
Yeah.
Calling, being so dismissed all of the criticisms by the United Nations, by these human rights groups, calling it utter nonsense. Yeah. And this, the disparaging remarks about protesters. I'm just wondering, did he get any kind of briefing? Did he know, like you just said, that many of the protesters in the U.S. are Jewish protesters, are Jewish academics and scholars? Many of them are students. it just seems like to me that the Republicans who invited him, Mike Johnson, who was so busy threatening to arrest people for being disruptive, doesn't seem like they gave him any kind of briefing or in any way, gave him any parameters in terms of if he were going to be given, as you said, this kind of open invitation to give a State of the Union that he can't do in his own country. Yes, it's pretty appalling. And it just shows the reason, Dr. Dubinga, why, as excited as we are about Kamala Harris, we also have to take back the House.
That's right.
Because if she goes into the White House, when she goes into the White House, and the House is still under the control of a Mike Johnson, we know what they being Republicans, are going to do. They are going to make it close to impossible.
That's right.
For her to have any kind of legislative, agenda that can get passed, because they are going to. Donald Trump will be so angry. He will be just mortified. I mean, we better get ready for defeated Donald Trump. I mean, because he is not. We saw what happened last time when he lost.
Mm-hmm.
We saw the lengths that he went through to cheat, to try to game the system, to stay in power. Can you imagine when a Black woman beats him?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I can. And that's the scary part of it. That's the beautiful thing about it is that at the very least, Biden will still be in charge of the Department of Justice, the Pentagon, and all of that other type of stuff. Because I couldn't imagine if Trump lost to a Black woman while Trump was still president. And we have to be mindful of losing to her and not being able to get all of the powers he's trying to get that the Supreme Court gave him, and to realize that he'll lose to this Black woman and then have to go back to all his trials with other Black women, from Fannie Willis, to Judge Chutkin. Like, the list is they are losing their minds over it. And that's why, with all of this enthusiasm, all of this money raised, we have to make sure we're voting. We also have to make sure that we are being more mindful and putting more attention on voter suppression efforts, because they're going to try even harder to suppress the votes. People need to go be checking their rolls, checking their registries, make sure they haven't been removed because of a signature or a letter missing, because Republicans were already doing that with Biden as the candidate. They're going to go into overdrive now. So I'm loving the enthusiasm, and we're bringing a lot of new people into this, but these new people got to know all of this means nothing if we don't show up and vote.
Yeah, no, you're so right. There was already so many efforts afoot at the state level, changing state election commissioners to MAGA folks. A lot of people not wanting to sign up, not wanting to be election officials, not wanting to volunteer at the polls because they saw the attacks made on election workers in this last election. So we've lost a lot of good people.
That's right.
And we know the cheating has been going on for a year. They've been planning for this. They didn't want to get caught flat-footed again. They wanted to have more control over what's happening at the state level. And, you make a good point. We don't transition in our country until January 20th or so.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe Biden will still be the president as Donald Trump is fighting in these courts again, because he's going to do that when he loses. And he knows, like you said, he'll be facing all of these criminal trials that await him. And there's a possibility of Supreme Court reform and other things that can even invalidate talk of passing legislation that would change that Supreme Court decision about giving him complete immunity. So none of this looks good for Trump. I think Republicans know it. Today, a former lieutenant governor for Georgia, Republican, said he was not going to vote for Donald Trump. He is not a Democrat. He's never been a Democrat, but he's going to vote for Kamala Harris. I think we're going to see more and more people like that who see this as a binary choice. People who have stopped supporting the Republican Party, who have said they're either independent or they will vote down ballot as Republicans, but they will not vote for Donald Trump at the top of the ticket. And I just can't, we're watching this history unfold where this unprecedented amount of enthusiasm. But I am reminded, and thank you for reminding us, we saw this with Bernie Sanders. So we've been in situations before where we've had candidates who can electrify a crowd, turn out thousands of people. This is not a popularity contest. Don't get excited about the crowds that show up at a rally, because we saw with Bernie. Bernie was turning out, 20,000 plus people?
He was.
And those same people didn't go to the polls and vote. So yes, we like the optics of crowds, but we like voters. Voters are far more important than that popular, folks that just want to be in the room because they, it's a celebrity kind of event. That's so critically important. When we come forward, we're going to talk about allies and what we can expect, because Black voters are leading, but we can't win this just with Black voters. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
Listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh, man. Looks like Bobby needs a ride to the airport again.
Grab the keys. Who's taking Auntie and her friends to the swap meet? Grab the keys.
How about we drop these boxes off at Miss Johnson?
Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, you're all about getting things done. So do it all in a Chevy SUV. From the versatile Equinox and sporty Blazer to the roomy Traverse, our lineup of SUVs will carry you through every adventure. All you have to do is
grab the keys.
That's how we do. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Malibu, Colorado, Blazer, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Traverse limited models. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 15.8%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 7/1/24.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement. Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text LION to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. Text LION to 42424. That's
Dr. Debinga, on Sunday night, 44,000 women were on a phone call for 3 hours, Zoom call that is, talking about how to make sure that Black women turned out for this election. That was followed on Tuesday night by 30,000 plus Black men. There are similar Zoom calls happening with gay members of the LGBTQ community, Black gays, non-Black gays, Asian Americans, Southeast Asian Americans, white women. These calls have become kind of the standard way in which voters are coming together to strategize. One question remains, though, and we know it from former elections, 2016, when Hillary Clinton was running. Women have traditionally not been incredibly supportive of candidates like Kamala Harris, some elections where women have broke in favor of a male candidate. Seems to be different. Seems to be a little different energy in this cycle. A lot of things have changed. The Me Too movement, for one, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, the restrictive reproductive rights and health bills that have been passed in GOP states. Do you think this climate, presents a different opportunity for those white suburban women, particularly in those battleground states, Ohio, Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada? We need those suburban voters. We can't just rely on Black voters in those states. Michigan, Michigan, Pennsylvania. What are you feeling? What are you hearing? What are you thinking about those voters?
If it was just Kamala alone, I would say I don't trust them. I mean, look what they did with Hillary Clinton. That was another, white woman. They didn't come out for her the way they should have. But the thing that gives me hope that this could be different is abortion, is a woman's right to choose. This whole thing, like you said, between the time that, Hillary ran and now, whoever thought we would say that girls have fewer rights than their mothers or grandmothers? Like, no one ever thought that was possible. So and you look at all of the referenda that happened across the country, all of them won in terms of a woman's right to choose. And so I feel like in this country, we're a country of single issue voters. And I feel like at the end of the day, people will stand. I have to be optimistic about that. I got 2 daughters now, and I just feel like a white woman, in her 50s, or, grandma in her 70s, who saw these things happen and remember those days of having to get your husband's permission to get a credit card, like all of these different types of things, will say, not for my child. And therefore I am voting for her, not for my grandchild. That's what's giving me hope that this time around, it'll be different.
Yeah, in about 6 minutes, we are going to bring you the live speech from Joe Biden from the Oval Office. This is going to be the first time that the president has addressed the nation since he made that shocking decision to not seek the nominee for president for the 2024 cycle. And he shortly thereafter endorsed Kamala Harris. So make sure you stick around. We're going to bring that to you live, and then we're going to bring you some live updates from inside that Oval Office with our own political correspondent who will be there and will tell us who else was in the room and what the mood was like and how Joe Biden really looks. A lot of conversations, Dr. Debinga, about Black men. Were you on that call, the Monday night Black men call?
I was on both calls. I snuck into the Black women's call. I'm just saying I was there, and I contributed. I donated to the link and whatnot. So yes, I was on both calls.
What did you make? And I know it was 30,000 plus people on the Black men's call, so you can't really know. But I'm just wondering, do you think there were men on that call who were formerly the anti-Harris? She's a cop, she's a prosecutor, she put Black men in jail for marijuana, blah, blah, blah. Do you think there were some of those guys on that call, or was this a call of already, pretty avid supporters of the vice president?
I think that they were definitely there in terms of, listening, because when you have so many different people, celebrities and all of that who are, tuning in between all of the platforms it was on, like over 53,000 people tuned in. So I think there were definitely people who were there, who were skeptical. But I think the beautiful thing about it, the call with the sisters, it was, they said from jump, this is off the record, so people can't, take clips of there, and they're rightfully so. So people can't take those clips from there if they were trying to screenshot whatever and put those out there. The fact that so much of this was live streamed and recorded, like on YouTube and the like, there's a lot of things that can be made into little clips from there that we can send to those Black men who are skeptical, about Kamala and the like. And so this is stuff that can be recycled and repurposed, because we know these will Black men support Kamala Harris stories, they're already circulating, they're already out there. And so from the jump, Black men following Black women's lead and doing this call early gives us a lot of fodder to use to refute that message that so many of us came together, raised over 1 million as well, and said, we are here for her now. Win with Black women came first, followed by win with Black men. We are following the lead, and they just can't separate us right now.
No, it's really good to hear. I talked to some folks in Atlanta. We're going to be having them on the show as well. They said there's a void in Atlanta politics because of the absence of Stacey Abrams. That Stacey was such a motivating force, and she was such a glue in that community, and she's been off the stage politically, doing more around her own writing, her producing, and several people have said that they just feel a little deflated. So we're going to be talking to folks in different parts of the country because, again, don't want to be in any bubbles, don't want to take any group for granted, don't want to assume that the enthusiasm, again, that's happening amongst a certain class of voters is trickling down to those other voters. And we know in this country, Black folks, Latinos, women, not monolithic. So different people have different issues. And we know that the Republicans are going to go back to Kamala Harris's own 2020 presidential campaign and some of the policy positions that she staked out then that, frankly, are to the left of policy positions that she and Joe Biden are responsible for in this administration. And they're going to try to use that. I saw a story about her saying she wanted to eliminate ICE, at the time when we were talking about the Immigration Enforcement Agency and some other positions that she took. So we just got to make sure that folks understand. And I heard a celebrity say this really well, like, don't get in the weeds on all these policy issues because you haven't studied them extensively and don't know all the the whys and why nots. It's just best to tell people, look, it's her or him.
Exactly.
And, you make it that simple and make it it's backwards or forward. It's crook or prosecutor.
That's right.
It's, prosecutor or felon. Just keep it really simple. And most folks, I think, when they hear it in those simple terms, they will do the right thing. We are out of time. We are going to get that speech from the Oval Office from the President of the United States geared up. It's Joe Biden in his first official address to the nation after the decision not to run for office and after his recovery from COVID-19. We will be in contact, Dr. Dubinga, thanks as always. And we're going to be back on the air as soon as that speech ends. We will have live coverage following remarks from our 46th President, Joe Biden.